Playoff baseball. It's not for the faint of heart. A pitch thrown in the first inning is as important as any pitch in the ninth. Tension builds as each inning ticks away, rising to a point where every single fan can feel the pressure. Records don't matter. Slumps are thrown out, and as they say, anything can happen if you get in the tournament. October baseball is what every team strives for. In October, any player could become a cult hero at any time, while at the same time being the ghost that will haunt opposing fans forever. A good playoff series lives on for years. A great playoff series lives on for eternity, with the unlikeliest of heroes rising up and etching their names right next to some of baseball's most storied. We are about to embark on a journey spanning 17 days in October of 2022. There's going to be a whole lot of ups and a whole lot of downs. But strap in and enjoy the ride.
Grisham swings, hits one in the air, deep to right field. It's gonna go! Swing and a miss! Freeman went after a slider in the dirt. And Harper swings, hits it in the air to deep left field. Profar's going back. He's looking up. This one's gonna go.
This is 12 games in October. The story of the San Diego Padres 2022 postseason run. October 2nd, 2022. A warm and sunny San Diego Sunday at Petco Park. The Padres were wearing their usual military Sunday uniforms, but this was just not your average Sunday of Padres baseball. And real quick, the next voice you are about to hear is going to be featured a lot throughout the podcast. Here's the voice of Padres Radio, Jesse Agler.
But again, the Brewers have runners on first and second, 2 outs in the 12th. And if they make one more out, the Padres will be into the playoffs. Josh Bell coming up. And guess what? Keston Hiura has just struck out. The ball game in Milwaukee is over. And the 2022 Padres are playoff bound. It's official.
Clearly the folks here in San Diego were following along as they have got it up on the board. White Sox players looking around like, what's going on?
Sellout crowd of 41,407 on their feet, and even the Padre dugout enjoying the moment.
Even in a loss, today was all about celebration. As the champagne flowed and the music blasted, I took in everything around me. I was lucky enough to be in the clubhouse that day. I couldn't believe I was in the middle of some of the best baseball players in the world celebrating something they had been working towards. The San Diego Padres had clinched a playoff berth with that Milwaukee Brewers loss, punching their ticket to the wildcard round. What did this mean for Padres players? Here's second baseman Jake Cronenworth reflecting on the accomplishment.
This is awesome. You know, all the things we went through this year, ups and downs, the fight, you know, having struggles, having success, to come to this moment, especially with this group, is awesome.
Joe Musgrove grew up idolizing the Padres. He is number 44 because of watching Padres legend Jake Peavy growing up. And before we get any further, I'll take the time now to introduce you to Tony Gwynn Jr. He's going to be featured throughout the series, reflecting, and we'll hear from him doing these interviews while he was in a poncho trying to stay away from the champagne. His voice is not on this next clip, but he did ask Joe Musgrove how it feels to bring the postseason to San Diego.
I've been in this point in 17 as a division winner, not a wild card, but this feels so much sweeter than any other win that we've had, man. Partially, I think, because I know what those fans are feeling out there. I was one of those fans for a long time, still am one of those fans, and it's nice to be on the other side of the ball and be able to do my part and try to make an impact and help this team get to a championship.
This was a big deal for a lot of players on the Padres, and one of those players had been there through thick and thin. Let's go back to Tony Gwynn Jr. in the clubhouse.
I got the longest tenured Padre with me right now, Will Myers. Will, you've been through, everything that we can possibly think of with this organization. What does this feel like?
This feels great, man, just to be here after 8 years celebrating like this. It's a lot of fun, man. It's a long time coming. This front office, this ownership group's done a great job. And to be here now, it makes it all worth it. It makes all the hard times worth it. So we're in now. We got one place to go, so we're excited about it and ready for the postseason.
The first time they had made the playoffs in a full 162-game season since 2006. Excluding the playoff appearance of 2020 during a 60-game season, shortened due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Padres had missed the playoffs in 14 of the last 15 seasons. A bleak existence for any Padre fan. I asked Tony about the different matchup possibilities and who he thinks would have been a better team to face in the wildcard round.
I think by that time, you already knew the matchups were going to be difficult regardless. It was at that time, I think it was Mets or Braves was like the final two options. The Padres had played well against both. They played well against the Mets. They played well against the Braves. They won both of the series against the Braves. I honestly liked the matchup. I mean, the Padres were playing a lot better as they got into the postseason.
The National League playoff picture would take a few more days to sort out, but when the dust settled, the Padres would be heading cross-country to one of the greatest cities in the world. They would be heading to New York City to play the New York Mets. What did Tony Gwynn Jr. think about the matchup?
I had seen Scherzer struggle a little bit down the stretch. You didn't know exactly what you were going to get from DeGrom. I certainly liked the way Yu Darvish was throwing the baseball at the time. You had to love the way Blake was throwing the ball, and you knew Joe had been as steady as anybody, maybe aside from Yu Darvish, all year. So once we found out we were going to New York, I genuinely felt good about the matchup. I really did.
The road to the World Series is meant to be difficult, and the road to the World Series is meant to be difficult for the team on the road. The 2022 playoffs were set up differently than the past. For the first time in the history of the game, the two top division winners in each league would receive a first-round bye. The division winner with the worst record from each league would receive home games in the first round. But most difficult of all, the road wildcard team would be playing 3 straight games on the road. And the Padres had drawn the New York Mets in their hostile environment that is New York City and Citi Field. Not an easy place for any team to play. Friday, October 7th, 2022 was the day many Padres fans had wanted for so long. A team with superstars, a team with personality, a team with grit, and even a team that will at one point in this journey embrace the rally goose. But more on that later. San Diego was buzzing with anticipation. Brown and gold colors were everywhere you went. Flags whipping through the wind as cars drove by. Even the city seemed full of joy. People were opening doors for one another. The common way to say hello and goodbye wasn't to say hello and goodbye. Instead, San Diego was ending all of their conversations with, "Go Padres!" To say the city was ready for this game is an understatement. In a city where their NFL team packed up and left, the Padres are the professional sports team San Diego rallies around. As the only professional sports team in town, the Padres held the weight of standing in for San Diego sports fans everywhere. The national media gave the Padres no shot to win this wildcard series. And the national media thought the 101-win Mets and their otherworldly pitching tandem of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom would prove to be too much.
We know we're going to get the two-headed horse. Everybody's been talking about it. You can't talk about it enough. Scherzer and deGrom back-to-back in whatever order you want to put them, they're a force to be reckoned with.
The national media was sleeping on Yu Darvish. Padres fans were not sleeping on Yu Darvish. Before the game, Bob Melvin was asked about Yu Darvish and how his pitching stacks up against Mets pitching.
You look at the numbers and look at his body of work this year. He's pitched probably as consistently as any pitcher in the National League. So we feel good every time he takes the mound. We know that, there's not a ton of pressure to have to score a bunch of runs when he's on the mound. And, he's pitched deep into games too, which, in general, allows your bullpen to, in a 3-game series, and maybe not to have to use them as much. Now, you never know how these games are gonna go, but I probably agree with you that this is one of the better pitchers in the National League. We're talking about him a lot in our clubhouse, maybe not as a whole, but I think the 3 starters, at least 2 stack up pretty well, as especially the way Blake's pitched second half of the season. So we like our starting pitching.
experts say it's just too hard to win on the road in the playoffs. But with a combination of elite pitching, timely hitting, and mistake-free baseball, any team can catch lightning in a bottle and win on the road. To go along with the road aspect of the series for the Padres, there were two questions being asked. Can Padres pitching, and more specifically starting pitching, limit the Mets' powerful offense to as few runs as possible? And then, can the Padres break through the Mets' starting pitching? You know, the seemingly impenetrable fortress of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom? And then one final ingredient to a road win: you need to take the crowd out of it, and you need to take the crowd out of it early. The Padres turned to their ace to shoulder the pressure of playoff baseball. Yu Darvish had delivered so many times in 2022. I asked Tony why Yu Darvish was the perfect guy for Game 1.
Experience. Not only experience, but let's be real. I mean, he was the Padres' best pitcher, and he was pitching his best going into that series.
Tony isn't joking. In the month of September, he was at his best with a 5-1 record, looking every bit the part of a playoff ace.
The thing about you is when he has it and he's got like command out the gate, there ain't really a whole lot you can do. And I just thought he was masterful in changing up speeds. His game plans to each hitter, he executed to perfection. As well as you could pitch in a Game 1. He set the tempo, really. He set the tempo for what we were going to see the rest of that series.
And if you're a Padres fan, there was comfort to you making the start with so much on the line. He's been there so many times before and delivered more often than not. Yu Darvish was the workhorse of the pitching staff, and he led the Padres in wins during the regular season, notching 16. Darvish also struck out the most batters and pitched the most innings. This was Yu's moment, and he was not going to shy away from it. Remember when I said the seemingly impenetrable fortress of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom? Enter Mets ace Max Scherzer. The often cantankerous competitor was made for this moment. The Mets also paid him a lot of money for this moment. $43.3 million for the 2022 season, to be exact. He's won a World Series, and he ranks 6th all-time in postseason strikeouts. It's safe to say the Padres had an uphill battle ahead of them in Game 1. Finally, it was time for first pitch, and Padres fans are ready.
Tonight is not like most other nights. We've got
all of that nervous energy, all of that excitement, all of that desire to see their hometown team in the postseason.
Outside of that, there's electricity in this building, unlike any game you'll see, I don't know, in the middle of July.
3,000 miles away in New York City, 41,621 fans were on their feet to get this wild card series started.
Ready for baseball as Max Scherzer is on the mound. Jurickson Profar will lead off. Switch hitter from the left side, swings at the first pitch, lost one into shallow left center field. That's going to get down. And a base hit in front of Canna, Lindor, and Nimmo, all of whom were pursuing it. So on the very first pitch of the night, Profar bloops a single the other way.
As much as time felt like it was crawling by waiting for first pitch, Jurickson Profar immediately made the wait worth it.
First pitch, ambush from Jurickson Profar. It's a fastball, but
we talked about silencing the raucous crowd as one final ingredient to a road win earlier. A single off the hometown ace on the first pitch of the game in the first at-bat of the playoffs is a good way to start chipping away at the soul of the Mets faithful. But next, strolling to the plate was someone who was very familiar with Max Scherzer, someone who had spent a lot of time with him over the years, someone who won a World Series with Max Scherzer. His former teammate, Juan Soto.
Home run Juan Soto, and the game is tied here in the 8th.
Soto was traded to the Padres at the trade deadline, and with some experts calling the deal one of the biggest trades in baseball history, expectations were sky high. Juan Soto was in a pressure cooker. Coming into the game, Soto had struggled at the plate, but Padres fans still had one thing creep into their mind every time he strolled to the plate. He's Juan freaking Soto, and he could change the game at any moment. Soto won a World Series in 2019. He had big game experience, and he thrived in those situations.
2-2 the count. Here's the pitch. Soto swings and misses, strike 3. Pulled him with a cutter down and in. First strikeout of the night for Scherzer is against.
We're going to talk a lot about Manny Machado throughout the series, and to start these playoffs, he had a quick 3-pitch fly out to left for the second out of the inning. And for as great as the game started for the Padres, confidence for a big inning was waning. Emotions went from excitement to frustration in just 2 quick outs. At this point, if there was any chance of a first inning lead, those duties would fall on Josh Bell. A little background on Josh Bell.
Cleanup hitter is Josh Bell in his first career postseason game.
He came from the Nationals and was a .301 hitter in the first 103 games of the 2022 season. Bell was brought in to help the Padres in an area they were severely lacking before the trade deadline.
First pitch fastball, a little bit away, 1 ball and
the
no
offense
strike.
had struggled to score and consistently hit day to day. The thought was Bell would immediately bring a bigger bat to the lineup, but like Juan Soto, Bell struggled to hit after being traded from one coast to the other.
Padres picked him up at the trade deadline as part of the Juan Soto deal. He played 53 games with San Diego. He did not contribute offensively, up to the same level that he had earlier in the year with the Nats, but perhaps some signs of life late in the season, and he's the DH here tonight against the guy he's had success against.
And he hit only 1 home run in his final 27 games. The probability that Josh Bell would change the outcome of this game was, quite frankly, slim. This wasn't the regular season, though. Unexplainable occurrences happen in the postseason. Any player can become a legend overnight. Postseason baseball is unpredictable, unexplainable, and maddening. What happened next? Had all 3.
Runner on first, 2 outs, no score, just underway. Game 1. And the 3-1 pitch hit in the air to deep left center field. Canna and Nimmo both going back. They are looking up. It's gonna go! A 2-run homer for Josh Bell. Second of his career against Max Scherzer, and the Padres pounce.
A heck of an introduction to your first playoff at bat.
You could say Josh Bell hitting a home run for the first time in 22 games was unpredictable. You could say that Josh Bell hitting a home run off of Max Scherzer in his first career postseason at-bat was unexplainable. And if you're a Mets fan, Josh Bell hitting his first home run in the last 22 games off of Max Scherzer in his first ever postseason at-bat was maddening. In the post-game press conference, Josh Bell was asked how he has been able to hit so well against Max Scherzer in his career.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, just on time for the fastball, ready for it. Hit the fastball a couple of times, hit the cutter a couple of times. I feel like generally any starter, if you see the fastball well and you're on time for it, good things happen. So that's what happened tonight.
And because it's awesome and I never got a chance to do it, Josh Bell was asked what it felt like to hit that home run.
It felt like I was on a cloud. Obviously, hyper focus just with the atmosphere and all that here. Just knowing the importance of each and every pitch and, trying to get on the board early and, trying to be on time, not missing mistakes. And, for me to pull through there, it was huge for me and it was huge for the team. Obviously you got a guy like you on the mound. It only takes, a couple of runs of run support and you can just do his job. So I'm happy to help.
And because it's cool and I never got the chance to do it, Josh Bell was asked about his bat flip.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of blacked out for it. There's not a lot of times where when you get a ball, especially opposite field. Looking back on it, I don't even remember doing it. Got a lot of pine tar in my hands too, so I was trying to get rid of the bat. I don't think it was anything too egregious, but I'm just happy to be in the moment there and whatever happened.
As someone who has not played high-level baseball, I'm pretty amazed at how things can be so bad for so long, but when you hit the playoffs, a switch is flipped. This happened with Josh Bell in this particular moment, and I asked Tony Gwynn Jr. why a player can turn things around so quick.
I would say, in those type of series, especially on the road, and the way this one was set up, was that the home team had all the games. If you're going to win those series, you generally need somebody to do something big out the gate. And I thought Josh Bell's homer was huge. I wasn't a surprise. The interesting thing about the playoffs is a lot of guys' focus changes. You're no longer worried about numbers. You're only worried about helping your team win the game. You don't have to look at the scoreboard and see what you have done because everything starts at 0. And there's an element to that is freeing. And when you've been struggling like Josh Bell was, when you basically get to start from scratch, it can lead to some good things.
The Padres had struck first, and it was huge. If there were any nerves from the Padres, those were now gone. They were in this, and they could most definitely win this. The Mets crowd was stunned, but they weren't totally dejected just yet. The Mighty Mets offense did score the 5th most runs in baseball during the regular season, so a couple runs with Max Scherzer on the mound was not quite enough to cause mass hysteria in the stands of Citi Field. That, however, would change. The Padres took a lead right out of the gate and headed to the bottom of the first with a 2-0 lead. The time had come for Yu Darvish to protect his team's lead. As we talked about earlier, Darvish had been locked in during the month of September. He went 5-1 in those starts with a 1.85 ERA, holding opposing batters to a 185 average in those 6 starts.
Here's the 1-2. Nimmo swings, cracks it on the ground sharply, but right to Cronenworth at second base. He gobbles it up. Short little throw to first, plenty of time. And 1 away in the bottom of the first inning.
As Padres fans had seen throughout the year, if there was an Achilles heel to Yu Darvish's season, giving up early runs was it. In his 30 starts, Darvish's first inning ERA was the highest of any inning he pitched, at 5.40, while giving up 6 home runs, also a high for any inning pitched. Yu Darvish had hit 12 batters throughout the season, and that's going to come up here in just a second.
1 out, nobody on, 2-0 Padres, bottom of the first inning. Shift on the right side, and the first pitch to Lindor is a slider that came down and in, hit him on the foot. The initial call from home plate umpire Adrian Johnson was ball. And then Lindor pointed down to his foot and said it hit me, and Johnson said, okay, take your base.
And that had Bo Mel irritated because of the initial reaction to call it a ball first.
The Mets, down 2-0, weren't waiting around.
Lindor runs on the first pitch to McNeil. Throw down to second base, not in time. Thought he might have overslid the bag. Kim did a good job keeping the tag down on him. But just like that, Francisco Lindor puts himself in scoring position.
Lindor safely stole second, and just like that, pressure was squarely on the Padres to protect their 2-0 lead. Everyone watching knew this was a big moment. Citi Field turned into a steady color of orange from all of those towels waving in the crowd.
All of a sudden you realize October baseball is very, very different.
It's a different monster.
And with the Major League batting champion Jeff McNeil at the plate,
Darvish set and fires. McNeil swings, lines one into right field. That's a base hit. Soto gets to it quickly. They'll hold Lindor at third base. Throw comes in.
A timely hit for the Mets, but was sent into right field at a scorching 100.3 miles an hour off the bat.
And Pete Alonso, who drove in more runs than anybody in baseball this year, coming up.
This was the last hitter Yu Darvish and the Padres wanted to see. The narrative had been written before and looked as if the narrative would be written again. Yu Darvish would surrender at least one first-inning run. However, on this early October New York City night, the pass was thrown out.
2 though. Runners lead at first and third. Here's the pitch. And Alonso takes right down the middle, strike 3 call. Throws him with a cutter. And the first strikeout of the night for Darvish is the second.
Darvish struck Pete Alonso out looking on 3 straight pitches to get the second out of the inning.
Instead, he gets a cutter middle of the plate, not even at the bottom of the zone. Goes down looking for out number 2.
Next up, Daniel Vogelbach.
0-2 again to Vogelbach. McNeil at first, Lindor at third. Here's the pitch from Darvish, and a swing and a drive to deep right field. Soto over towards the corner, and he will reach up and make the catch to end the inning. In fair territory, deep down the right field line, Vogelbach just missed, and the inning is over. No runs, a hit.
Yu Darvish had flipped the script on his first inning woes, and the Padres' 2-0 lead was intact as they headed to the top of the second. Now, we're not going to go through every single pitch of every single inning, but it just so happens the first and second inning proved to be the unlikeliest in Padres history. We already had Josh Bell fulfilling part 1 with his 2-run homer in the first, but no one would ever be able to guess part 2 of this equation. Mets ace Max Scherzer got right back to being dominant by quickly getting 2 outs in the second. And that is when we were introduced to the unlikeliest of all heroes, Padres center fielder Trent Grisham. When the Padres wildcard roster was announced, one of the biggest questions was whether or not center fielder Trent Grisham would be included on the roster. At that point, he was a Gold Glover, a defensive specialist, but Grish struggled greatly throughout the 2022 season at the plate.
2-2 to Grisham with one out and a runner on first. And a ground ball up the middle off the mound. It is fielded at Jordan McKinstry. Steps on second one, throw to first in time, and a double play to end the game.
For the season, he had a batting average of just .185. He did have some power with 17 home runs, but he was in the middle of one of his worst slumps of the season and the toughest year of his career at the plate. As much as Pete Alonso was the perfect hitter at the plate in the first inning for the Mets, Trent Grisham was not ideal for the Padres. Facing Max Scherzer in his career, Grisham had only 2 hits and 15 at-bats. There was one immeasurable aspect of this particular at-bat for Trent Grisham. The magic of October does not care what you hit in the regular season. Any player at any moment can make themselves a fan favorite and a playoff legend.
Here's the 1-1 on the way. And Grisham swings, hits one in the air, deep to right field. Marte's racing back to the wall. He'll look up. It's going to go. Trent Grisham homered at Citi Field back in July. He homers at Citi Field here on October 7th. The Padres have taken Scherzer out of the yard twice in 2 innings, and they lead this game 3-0.
We're going to have to repeat it on multiple occasions.
You could say Trent Grisham hitting a home run for the first time in 18 games was unpredictable. You could argue Trent Grisham hitting a home run off of Max Scherzer for the first time in his career was unexplainable. And if you're a Mets fan, Josh Bell and Trent Grisham hitting home runs off of Max Scherzer after struggling down the stretch was maddening. Once again, I was stunned that a player who struggled so much during the year had now hit a huge home run. I asked Tony, who is Trent Grisham, the baseball player, and how did he come through in such a critical moment?
I think he knows who he is. I think he believes in himself. And, he didn't stop working during that time. Like, he struggled mightily. But if you pay close attention, he got a ton of at-bats, like maybe the last 3 series of the year. And I felt like I could see him starting to come out of it. And talk about hitting, peaking at the right time. I mean, he couldn't have picked a better time than what he did. He was so instrumental in those first 2 series, especially this one, the one against the Mets. But for me, when you watch a guy and you get a seat that I get where you get to see these guys work every day, you get to see them not you get a guy like Trent not waver in who he is, and embrace what he was going through. I don't know that I was rooting for anybody harder than I was rooting for Trent Grisham, and for him to be able to step into that moment and really he was probably the Padres' best hitter in that series.
A hush fell over Citi Field. Outside of some fans booing the performance thus far, the Padres had taken control of the road crowd. As Trent Grisham rounded the bases, he looked as if he was not running the bases, but he was gliding around the bases. The game was now 3-0 in the top of the second, and the Mets faithful were stunned. Their ace, Max Scherzer, the bulldog of their pitching staff, was letting this game get away and get away in a hurry.
Success rate of all
in the bottom of the second, the Mets offense wasn't interested in this game getting out of hand early, and Starling Marte was their weapon.
He runs, the 0-1 pitch bounces in. Nola couldn't get a grip on it. By the time he throws down, no chance. Stolen base, Starling Marte, second of the night for the Mets.
Great jump. Once Nola had to kind of re-grip, there was really no shot.
Pressure was placed right back on the Padres defense.
Now they're ready. Marte runs. Huge jump. 3-1 pitch. A strike throw down to third. No chance. Second stolen base for Marte this inning. Third of the night for the Mets.
As he did in the first inning, Darvish was now facing a really tough spot. And as he did in the first inning, he managed to escape without a scratch. He was able to get the final 2 outs, and the second straight threat from Mets runners was stopped right in its tracks. From there, Yu Darvish and Max Scherzer got into a groove, and both pitchers had a 1-2-3 third and fourth inning. By this point, Mets fans did not have much to cheer for in the game, and the road advantage had been neutralized. The nightmare that was the first and second inning for Max Scherzer seemed to be behind him, and he seemed to have become the Mad Max we all knew. That was short-lived, as the fifth inning would prove to be the end for Max Scherzer. He had just allowed 2 hits to the bottom of the Padres' order. Ha-Seong Kim was on third and Austin Nola was on second after a ground rule double to right field with only 1 out. The game's momentum was in danger of toppling all the way over to the Padres side. Jurickson Profar started the game with a single on the very first pitch.
Profar, switch hitter, left-handed, swings at the first pitch. It's a missile out towards the right field corner. Marte goes back, looks up, it's a home run! Just got it over the fence down the right field line. 3-run home run, Jurickson Profar, the Padres' third of the night against Scherzer, and it's 6-0 San Diego in the fifth.
Cutter into Jurickson Profar, who has been hot, swinging the bat coming into this ball game. 3-run shot.
The Padres had blown the game wide open, and Max Scherzer's job was now to throw as many pitches as he could to spare his bullpen of extra work. It was noted the Padres were swinging early and often in Game 1. Padres manager Bob Melvin was asked post-game about swinging first pitch and whether or not that was their strategy.
You know, there's different ways to try to go about a starter like that. You know, you try to get on them early if a lot of times before they get into a rhythm. After that, if they are, you try to make them throw some pitches and hopefully get them out earlier in the game. But today it was, early swinging before he got into a rhythm. He never really got to settle in. So, that was kind of the approach early on. If you get a good pitch to hit, go ahead and do it, and then we'll try to figure it out later. But lucky enough to get, not only score some balls up, but hit them over the fence, which, obviously, get some multiple runs.
Getting to the bullpen was a strategy of the Padres, and quite possibly the best player on either team, Padres third baseman Manny Machado, provided the spark.
First pitch swinging, Manny rips one to left field, Canna going back, turning around, watching it go! A line drive home run for Manny Machado. That thing got out of here like a rocket, and the fourth home run of the night for the Padres puts them in front 7-0 here in the fifth inning.
That ball got out in an absolute hurry.
The laser from home plate to left field was the hardest hit ball of the game, reaching an exit velocity of 110.5 miles per hour. The score was now 7-0 in favor of the Padres, and everything had been flipped upside down. Buck Showalter emerged from the Mets dugout and headed to remove Scherzer from the game. His night was over. He would exit after only 4 2/3 innings pitched. He threw 80 pitches, gave up 4 home runs, and allowed 7 earned runs. A night Padres fans would always remember, and a night Mets fans would always want to forget. The future Hall of Fame pitcher did not have games like this. In fact, Max Scherzer had given up 4 home runs in a single start only 3 times in his career prior to that night. And if you want to take things one step further, only 11 other pitchers had given up 4 or more home runs in postseason history. Odds were heavily stacked against this happening. But as sports often shows us, we never really know what's going to happen. This was the nightmare scenario for the Mets. Post-game, Bo Mel was asked if he was surprised his team hit 4 home runs off Mad Max.
This guy's as good as you get, so you don't get very many opportunities or games like this out of Max, so we were fortunate in that respect, but we also had a good approach early on. We were aggressive and got some mistakes to hit, and next thing you know, obviously we had a 3-run lead early and then tacked on 4 more in the fifth.
Yu Darvish would go back out for the bottom of the fifth, and he would give up a home run to Eduardo Escobar.
1-2, that's it in the air to deep center field. Grisham just turns his back, running after it towards left center, still on the run. He will leap up, and this one's going to go. A home run, wow, for Eduardo Escobar.
A triple to Brandon Nimmo.
Nimmo, the left-handed batter, swings at the first pitch, knocks it fair down the first base line all the way into the right field corner. Myers dove towards the line, had no chance to get it. He's thinking about 3. Soto uncorks a great throw. The tag by Manny, not in time. A 2-out triple for Brandon Nimmo.
But he would get through the inning, and that lone run would be the only one for the Mets in Game 1. Darvish would end up pitching 7 innings, giving up only 6 hits, 1 home run, and striking out 4. Yu Darvish pitched masterfully, and the Padres offense broke out of the slump they were in heading into the postseason. Here's Bo Mel talking about Yu's start.
Well, I mean, we're getting pretty spoiled. It's kind of a typical Yu Darvish game where he goes 7 innings, he throws about 100 pitches, doesn't give up much, pitches out of jams when he needs to, and invents pitches along the way. So, most starters you worry about 3rd and 4th time around the lineup, but not really with him when he's going good because he can give you different looks all the way around. And this just seems like a typical game for him.
The Padres pitching combination of Robert Suarez and Luis Garcia were able to handle the Mets lineup in the 8th and 9th inning without much drama and lock down the stunning Game 1 win for the San Diego Padres.
Mets again down to their final strike. 2 on and 2 out in the bottom of the 9th inning. Garcia trying to close the door here on his 20th pitch of the night. It's on the way, and it is taken. Strike 3 call. Perfect slider. Freezes Alvarez, and the ball game is over.
The loud and raucous crowd of 41,621 were leaving Citi Field as silent as they had been all night. In my mind, the Padres winning the game didn't surprise me. How Max Scherzer pitched definitely did surprise me. Here's Max Scherzer's postgame talking about what happened.
I felt like my fastball was running on me. I didn't have a good fastball location. Every time, for me, working glove side with my fastballs, usually when I execute that, it stays playing on the glove side part of the plate, and then usually has ride, and so I keep on the on the glove side. From watching the film and just watching how they were able to take swings, my fastball was running on me. I wasn't able to command that fastball the way I usually can, and that's my bread and butter, to be able to set up everything else. And when my fastball's flat and then running, that's usually when I get hit a lot. And obviously tonight, I got hit a lot. Don't know why that is. I thought I made the right adjustment to come in tonight. Usually when I'm in the right position, usually the fastball has ride. Tonight it didn't.
Then, in typical New York media fashion, he was asked how disappointed he is with his performance.
Yeah, of course I'm disappointed, but I don't know. The baseball can take you to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and this is one of the lowest of lows.
I'll give Max Scherzer credit for this. He didn't go down the road he wanted to go down, and probably should have gone down. Game 1 had many defining moments for the Padres. You have Josh Bell's 2-run home run to start off the game, Trent Grisham's second-inning homer, or Jurickson Profar's 3-run home run to break the game wide open. Tony explains why he picked Josh Bell's home run as the moment of Game 1.
His homer, I think, was really the biggest moment in Game 1. He hits that homer, and you can almost feel the air come out of the building, even that early, from the Mets fans. They didn't even have a chance to get into that game because the Padres jumped on them early.
The final box score for Game 1, the Padres scored 7 runs on 8 hits and had no errors. The Mets scored 1 run on 7 hits with no errors. Max Scherzer took the loss, and Yu Darvish got the win. Home runs for the Padres included Josh Bell, Trent Grisham, Jurickson Profar, and Manny Machado. The Mets had only 1 home run, and that was hit by Eduardo Escobar. After a grueling regular season for both teams, the 100-win New York Mets were on the brink of elimination. Mets fans were aware, Mets players were most certainly aware, and Padres, their fans could taste a series win. The unthinkable was right there. Just one more win and the Padres would be moving on to play the Los Angeles Dodgers, who were currently in LA resting, enjoying their first round bye, trying to stay loose and ready for the National League Division Series. Games in October was written, produced, edited, voiced, and researched by myself, Matt Skraby. I would like to thank Tony Gwynn Jr. for sitting down with me to talk about Game 1. I would also like to thank Adam Klug and Michael Valenzuela for supporting me in this endeavor. 12 Games in October is an Odyssey podcast from 97.3 The Fan in San Diego.